Discover 4 spine-chilling cabin in the woods horror stories that expose terrifying secrets. The car rolled to a stop, gravel crunching under the tires as Jessica's heart raced with anticipation. She glanced back at Mike, Ethan, and Lily, all smiles and excitement. They were escaping. A weekend in their rustic cabin promised cozy nights by the fire, laughter-filled hikes, and a break from the chaos of suburban life. But as she stepped out, a shiver snaked down her spine, an unsettling feeling creeping in. The forest loomed large, shadows stretching like fingers, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. "Mom! Come see!" Ethan yelled as he bounded toward the trees, Lily close behind. Jessica followed, but her heart beat a nervous rhythm against the backdrop of chirping birds and rustling leaves. An odd rustle from the branches caught her attention, drawing her gaze. It felt alive, almost like it was reaching out to her. Dismissing it as an overactive imagination, she encouraged the kids to explore the area. Yet, a knot tightened in her gut, a warning too faint to articulate. After settling in, Jessica's unease deepened. Venturing out to gather firewood, she stumbled upon strange markings carved into the trees, cryptic symbols that made her skin crawl. Memories of old legends about ancient spirits seeped into her thoughts. Just a prank, she dismissed, but as dusk fell, the air thickened with an unseen tension. The gentle chirps morphed into sibilant whispers, ghostly echoes that made her hairs stand on end. Just when her anxiety peaked, a knock at the door broke her thoughts. Dave, the neighbor, greeted them with a broad smile. His friendly voice washed over her like a balm at first, but the way his eyes flickered over her family sent a chill tingling at her nape. He spun tales of hunting and nature, but his gaze lingered too long, his intent too wrapped up in unsettling curiosity about their plans. Did he know something? She felt panic bubbling as the sense of safety began to fray at the edges. "Good, nice to meet you," she said, forcing a smile, but the shadows just beyond the lantern light flared ominously. They danced in the night, elongated forms fluttering at the treetops, leaving her breathless. What was lurking out there? It felt like the woods pulsed, alive with something sinister. She could almost hear the whispers again, warning her, urging her to protect her family. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Inside the cabin, tension crackled, gnawing at her instincts. She glanced back at Dave, his smile too wide, eyes glinting under the single light bulb. The laughter of her children faded into the distance, their innocence rendering them oblivious to the smothering weight of danger hanging in the room. Shadows crept closer, almost tangible as they extended their grasp. What had she gotten them into? With the oppressive darkness outside closing in, the family's joy filled the air like a fragile balloon ready to pop. As urgent whispers merged with scrapes against the cabin, shattering the facade of peace, Jessica realized she might have underestimated the territory's hold. Trusting Dave could be their greatest misstep. What if the lines between friend and foe blurred? The heart-stopping truth twisted in her gut. This weekend getaway, meant to be a cocoon of coziness, was transforming into a treacherous labyrinth of hidden threats. Could she decipher the signs before the night swallowed them whole, before the woods recaptured what they believed was theirs? The wind howled like a wounded beast, rattling the cabin's old frame, making the dim light flicker. Jessica pressed her palms against the cool wooden table, fighting against the rising tide of dread. The kids were still outside, their laughter echoing weakly against the encroaching shadows. She clenched her jaw, biting back the instinct to call them inside. "We should stick together," she whispered more to herself than anyone else. But her voice trembled, a twinge of panic lacing her words. As if sensing her anxiety, Mike walked over. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, offering comfort, but she felt no warmth. His eyes strayed towards the window, concern flickering in their depths. Maybe it's time to bring the kids back inside. What's taking them so long? Jessica nodded, her mind racing. Ethan and Lily loved to explore, but this was different. The woods didn't just loom, they seemed to beckon, seductive but treacherous. I'll go get them, she said, half-heartedly convincing herself as she headed toward the door. The chill of the night gripped her as she stepped outside. The air hung heavy, pregnant with anticipation. Ethan. Lily. Her voice cut through the thick silence, but they didn't respond. Just the whispers in the trees. Jess scanned the dark outline of the forest. The silhouettes of the trees twisted like fingers scratching at the sky. Then she saw them glimpses of movement among the branches. Her heartbeat quickened. Get back here. Now. Panic surged through her veins. Finally, Ethan popped into view, followed closely by Lily, their faces smeared with dirt and wide-eyed wonder. Mom, you have to see this. He shouted, excitement radiating off him as he tugged her toward a cluster of trees. What is it? She demanded, trying to steady her voice. He stopped suddenly, his expression shifting from joy to confusion. There it was right here. He pointed, but all Jessica saw were the crooked branches swaying, creating shapes that seemed almost alive. The laughter had drained from the air, replaced by a stillness that pressed down hard like an impending storm. What did you see? Lily shifted on her feet, her small hands wringing together. It looked like a person, but not a person. It was moving, Mom. A bone-deep chill settled in Jessica's stomach. It wasn't just her imagination. A flicker of something unnatural danced in the corner of her vision, dark and snaking among the trees. We need to go back inside, she said firmly, her voice barely above a whisper. They hurried back to the cabin, but just as they reached the door, it creaked open. Dave stood there, an unsettling smile plastered on his face. I thought I'd come check on you, he said, his tone too sugary, too sweet. Moments felt stretched out as Jessica took in the glint in his eyes. We're fine, she replied too quickly, stepping back. Just, tired from the drive. Of course, he said, leaning forward ever so slightly. The shadows danced around them, the wind carrying away her resolve. But you should know, night in these woods brings out interesting things. Best not to wander too far off. Jessica felt the air thicken, the warning hidden in his words curling around her like tendrils of smoke. Thanks for the heads up, but we won't need your suddenly. A soft whispering rose from the forest, almost as if in answer to Dave's words. It hissed against her ears, a chorus of disembodied voices weaving through the trees. Her heart slammed against her ribs. And then, all at once, the whispers stopped. Silence fell like a shroud, heavy and suffocating, leaving only Dave's eyes bore down on her dark pools of something she couldn't name. Don't you worry about those voices, Jess. Just old stories, old fears, he smiled wider, the warmth gone. But some things they don't like to be forgotten. Jessica's breath hitched. The weight of the evening settled upon her, the hints of danger surfacing once more. What are you talking about? She squeaked, backing further into the cabin. With a chuckle, he leaned back, as if to give her space. But Jessica could feel the predatory gaze. Never leaving her, a chill trailing down her spine. Outside, the wind whistled an eerie tune, a dreadful promise that night was just beginning to unfurl its secrets. And as the shadows outside shifted, Jessica could hear it once more, the faint whisper of her name lingering in the cold air. What would happen when the secrets revealed themselves? Would they find this weekend a desperate fight for survival, or would the silence of the woods consume them whole? The air thickened with unspoken dread. Jessica felt as if she was caught in a web woven by unseen hands. Her instincts screamed at her to retreat, but the curiosity gnawed away at her. Dave's presence grew heavier as he lingered, eyes shining with an intensity that unsettled her more than the shadows outside. "Let us go inside," she urged, forcing her voice to stay steady. The kids cast nervous glances between her and Dave. "Not yet. I have stories to share," he replied, plucking an imaginary thread of amusement from the air. With a practiced nonchalance, he stepped further into the cabin, invading their space. The moment felt charged, as though the walls were shaking beneath the weight of secrets long buried. "Mom, can we stay out here?" Ethan asked, his young voice dripping with naive bravery. "No." Jessica snapped, feeling adrenaline surge. "We're going inside. Now." She ushered the children past Dave, who chuckled softly, a sound that crept under her skin. As she shut the door, the feeling of safety slipped away. The cabin's dim glow did little to chase away the chill that clung to her. The wind shrieked against the window like a wailing ghost, but it was the stillness inside that felt most unnerving. "Mom, what did Dave mean?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jessica didn't answer right away. The shadows cast by the flickering candlelight seemed to twist in response to her uncertainty. "Just old stories," she lied. "Nothing to worry about." But deep down, she understood wrongness crept close, thick as the smoke rising from the fireplace, lacing their breaths with fear. Outside, the night deepened, the woods now alive with an unsettling energy. Jessica's fingers fidgeted with the hem of her sweater as she took stock of the room, a refuge that now felt like a trap. "We should stay together," she said, gathering the kids close, trying to soothe her jittery nerves. From the corner of her eye, something moved outside. She turned sharply but saw nothing. Just the trees swaying in a dance that felt all too ritualistic. "Did you guys see something?" "No, Mom," Ethan replied, shaking his head. "It was just Dave." "Right?" "Right. Just Dave," she echoed, more for her benefit than theirs. She fought to ignore a creeping sense that their safety had been breached the moment the door swung open. Dave's face flashed in her mind, that unsettling grin. A chill ran down Jessica's spine. Then, the wind howled again, louder this time, almost as if laughing at their fear. "We need to check the windows," she decided, hoping to quell the growing dread. As she moved to the window, the temperature in the room dropped. Every breath became visible. Something's not right. Lily's small hand grasped hers tighter, and Jessica felt her daughter's tremor. "Mom, it doesn't feel like it did earlier." "I don't like it. Let us keep an eye out, okay?" "Just a little longer," she soothed, trying to mask her unease. They all stood silently, each breath in the cabin thick with tension. Then another whisper, indistinct but urgent, swept through the cracks of the wooden walls. "Jessica." The voice curled around her name, soft yet sharp, a sinister caress. "What was that?" Ethan exclaimed. "Is it Dave?" "No. It's nothing," she insisted, panic rising. "Stay close." Yet as the whisper echoed over the howling wind, it changed, morphing into a chant, an ancient murmur that seeped into her bones. The walls seemed to close in, vibrating with a haunting melody that steeped her in despair. "Mom, I want to go home," Lily cried, tears glistening in her eyes. Jessica snapped her gaze back to the window, fearing what might be out there. The night loomed darker than ever, and she could barely see the outline of the trees. But there was movement, a shadow, no, something far more solid, weaving in and out among the trunks, drawing closer to the cabin. "Stay behind me," she urged, her heart racing, as she slowly reached for the door again, instinct pulling her to face whatever lurked in the shadows. Who knew what horror awaited them? Would they witness the unfurling of hidden truths or be consumed by the malevolence of the woods? Just as she grasped the handle, a loud bang shook the cabin, rattling the windows. It seemed to pulse with the darkness itself. And then came the sound, faint but clear, like footsteps dragging through the underbrush, creeping closer. Jessica's breath stopped. What was out there? And what, if anything, was beyond the door? The door trembled under her shaking hand, but Jessica held her ground. The footsteps grew louder, dragging across the gravel like a warning, a premonition of dread. The kids clung to her waist, their little bodies pressing against hers, seeking the warmth of comfort in their mother's presence. "Mom, please don't open it," Ethan whimpered, his voice quaking. "I have to see," she replied, her own resolve crumbling beneath the weight of fear. The shadows outside danced, boots ghosting across the moonlit ground, a parade of the unknown. With a deep breath, she turned the knob, the chill from the door rushing past her. It felt alive, almost breathing. "Stay back!" she shouted, her voice sharper than intended, making the kids jump. They hesitated, fear written all over their little faces. In that moment, everything felt still. The wind stopped howling, the world outside lost its savage edge. It felt like a pause before the plunge. Jessica pushed the door open, creaking into the night, light spilling out but revealing nothing. The light barely reached the tree line, leaving the majority of the woods cloaked in darkness, a world of nightmares breathing all around them. "Mommy?" Lily's voice was a thin wisp of sound. A flicker caught her eye. A flash of movement, just beyond the trees. Jessica stepped out, heart thrumming, every instinct telling her to turn back. Something swayed among the branches, outlining a figure just out of reach of the cabin's dim glow. "Hello?" Her voice trembled as she called out, forcing herself forward. There was no answer, only the silence of the woods wrapping around her. The figure moved again, closer this time. It wasn't Dave. It wasn't anything human. Silhouetted against the moonlight, it hunched low, its elongated limbs twisting unnaturally as it lurched forward. A visage flickered between the shadows, and in that fleeting moment, Jessica saw its eyes, dark, hollow voids that seemed to swallow the light around them. Her heart raced, every muscle in her body screamed at her to flee. But she couldn't see it, not clearly. "Get inside. Now!" she shouted. The kids rushed inside as she stood frozen, dread anchoring her feet to the ground. Her mind screamed at her to move, but fear paralyzed her. She could feel it breathing, that whisper of sinister history immersing the air around her, weaving a fabric of horror. Just as she finally tore her gaze away and back towards the door, the figure flickered closer, an inhuman snarl cutting through the silence. Jessica slammed the door shut, her chest heaving as she locked it, panic rushing through her veins. "What was that, Mommy?" Lily cried, her face pale and tear-streaked. "I don't know, honey," Jessica gasped, trying to catch her breath. "We need to keep quiet. Don't make a sound." The whispered chant resumed, louder now, vibrating through the walls like a living entity. It was a sound that clawed at her sanity, echoing in her skull. It seeped into her consciousness, a sinister lullaby that promised tragedy. Jessica moved to the window, peeking through the curtain, her heartbeat a frantic drum in her ears. Outside, the figure lingered at the edge of the woods, glances of its crooked smile breaking the dusk, watching, waiting. The kids pressed against her, fear radiating from them like heat. "Why is it looking, Mom?" Ethan asked, trembling. "Because it wants something," Jessica whispered. No sooner had the words escaped her mouth than the windows rattled violently as an unseen force struck the cabin. She stumbled back, breathless and scared. A shadow passed across the window as something lunged at the door. It was pounding now, relentless. The walls shook with each blow, the sound something primal and hungry. A sudden thought gripped her. If Dave was lured here by this horror, what did he want? What had he unleashed? Mom, Lily's voice broke through the chaos. "What do we do? Fight or flee?" The cabin, once a haven, now felt like a coffin closing in. And as Jessica scanned the room, she felt the unsettling truth settle that whatever was out there, it might already be inside a crash. from above sent her heart spiraling. Jessica looked up, realization dawning. The attic, they weren't alone. What was lurking there, watching? Would they survive the night, or become part of the very horror that consumed this place? The attic creaked ominously, a sound that set her nerves on edge. Jessica's breath quickened, heart pounding as adrenaline flooded her veins. She glanced down at her children. Ethan's face was grim, his large eyes shiny with dread, while Lily clung to his side, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. "Stay here," Jessica whispered, even though her voice trembled. Numbness replaced her fear, igniting a fierce determination to protect them. Every instinct screamed for her to flee the cabin, but she couldn't leave the kids. Not now. Slowly, she stepped away from the door, inching towards the narrow staircase that led to the attic. Each step she took felt heavy, the air thickening with an unseen weight. The pounding on the door grew fierce, raw anger emanating from the other side. She froze for a moment, torn between the chaotic noise and the dreadful silence lurking just above her. "Mom?" Ethan called softly, his voice barely a whisper. Just wait," she murmured, pushing her way up the stairs. The wood groaned underfoot, a hesitant protest against her ascent. As she neared the top, a chill crawled up her spine. Shadows pooled in the corners, and the air grew thick and cold, laced with a musty odor, like something long forgotten. The door to the attic stood ajar, an inky blackness beckoning her closer. Jessica resisted the urge to turn and run back down. She peered cautiously inside, heart racing. Nothing. But something was there, a presence lurking just out of sight, breathing like the forest. She stepped over the threshold, the floorboards creaking under her weight. The dim light from a cracked window seeped in, casting eerie shapes across the dust-laden boxes piled haphazardly around the space. Suddenly, a thud echoed from above, jolting her. The dread settled deeper within her chest, squeezing hard. Nothing human could make that sound. It was a guttural, animalistic sound that sent shocks of terror straight through her. "Ethan! Lily!" She called out, glancing back down the stairs, desperation clawing at her throat. "Stay close." From the far corner, a whisper drifted through the air, a chilling entreaty, a voice that was not quite human, sputtering like dying embers. It pulled at her, weaving its way into her thoughts. "Jessica," it hissed, sibilant and wrong, filled with dark promises. She turned sharply towards the source. An old trunk lay slightly ajar, and Jessica could see something shifting inside. Something alive. Her skin prickled, every hair raising like a warning. She knew each box could hold a secret, each one a possible avenue to the horror they were facing. "No," she whispered, backing away. "No." The pounding intensified from below, a chaotic rhythm that echoed her panic. She could feel the walls vibrating with a palpable force. Whatever was in the attic and whatever was outside shared a cruel connection, an unholy bond. A soft pattering drew her eyes to the trunk again. The whispers grew louder, plucking at her sanity, weaving desires for revelation. "Open it," it urged, melodic yet terrifying. "You want to know, don't you?" Her breath hitched, throat tightening. A sharp crack rang out from downstairs, splintering the darkness, a doorway bashing underfoot. She had no time left. "Mom!" Lily's voice pierced through the chaos. "Please come back." Jessica turned on her heel, fear mingling with instinct. She had to protect them, whatever was inside the trunk would have to wait. As she dashed for the staircase, the trunk shuddered violently, the sound of scraping wood ringing out like a death knell. Just as she reached the top step, the attic door slammed shut. Panic surged through her as she twisted the handle. It wouldn't budge. "No! No! No!" she shrieked, slamming against the door. The whispers erupted into a high-pitched wail, a cacophony of torment rising within the cabin, drowning out the children's cries. Jessica felt her chest constrict, the walls closing in as darkness enveloped her. What had she unleashed? As the screams echoed, a shadow leapt across the attic, monstrous and eager, coming for her. Was it too late for all of them? What was left lurking in the darkness, waiting for its time to strike? Jessica felt the panic grip her as she hurled herself against the door. The wood creaked in protest, but it wouldn't budge. She could hear the whispers filling the attic, a ghastly symphony of drowned cries and dark promises that clawed at her sanity. The air thickened, growing alive with dread. "Mom! Please!" Lily's voice shattered through the chaos, drawing her back to her children, anchored in the reality she couldn't abandon. The door rattled violently against her shoulder, and she felt an unnatural force pushing back from the other side. Shadows twisted and danced in the periphery, and a visceral chill wrapped around her, making every hair stand on end. What was on the other side was no longer just wood and nails, it was something alive, breathing, hungry. "Jessica," the voice broke through the howling whispers, its cadence smooth and seductive. "Just one little peek. Just one." She could feel her heart hammering in a frenzied rhythm. A single glance at whatever lay behind that trunk could spell doom, but her maternal instinct screamed for action. "Ethan! Lily!" Her voice was raw, lacerated by fear. "You need to stay together and stay quiet." Ethan's small hand gripped Lily's, their bodies pressed tightly against the wall, eyes wide under the thinning shadows. Jessica's breath quickened. She imagined the threat creeping toward them in the dark like a predator closing in on its prey. The attic trembled under her feet, the very foundations seemingly shifting. A terrible crack echoed, louder now. Jessica knew she had only moments before the monstrous truth revealed itself. She spun back to the trunk, the ancient wood and rusted metal beckoning her with its simmering promise. Could she afford to ignore it? She bit her lip, warring with the choice. If there was a chance it could help her understand, could help save her children, wasn't it worth the risk? "Open it," the soft cooing whispered again, writhing through the air like smoke. "Find the answers within, they seek you." The trunk shuddered again, more violently this time, as if something was desperate to break free. Jessica stepped closer, drawn in against her better judgment. With each step, a growing anguish filled her chest. "Mom!" Lily's voice was frantic now, fear wrapping around her words. Jessica hesitated, fear flooding in. Was she really willing to risk it all, risk her children's safety for an echo of a whisper? Suddenly, the attic door rattled again, but this time it flew open forcefully. The world plunged into darkness as an inky shadow surged toward her, its breath a chilling wind that froze her bones. Instinctively, she shielded the children, throwing her arms around them protectively. But the shadows didn't stop. In a flash, they coiled around her, visceral and suffocating. Jessica screamed as the malevolent presence closed in. The trunk burst wide open, and a flurry of spectral forms swirled out, their faces contorted in twisted laughter, eagerly reaching for her. "Let us in," they hissed in unison. With a surge of desperation, Jessica knew she had to act not just for herself, but to protect what remained of their family. She thrust the children backward, urging them to the edge of the attic stairs. "Run! Run now!" As they stumbled back, the shadows loomed closer, their wicked intent palpable. But even amidst the terror, a single horrifying thought pierced through the chaos. What was about to happen wasn't just a clash between dark and light, it was a battle for their very souls. "Mom!" Ethan screamed, eyes wide with a mix of terror and resolve. "Go!" Jessica shouted one last time, feeling the darkness coil around her. But what had she truly set free? As the shadows engulfed her, a flicker of light erupted from the trunk, revealing something twisting within the darkness, a long-lost truth that could shatter everything they knew. It was only just beginning. What awaited them all when the sun rose again? The shadows erupted with hideous laughter, a cacophony of voices that twisted into shapes Jessica couldn't comprehend. They tugged at her, pulling her away from the children, their icy tendrils wrapping around her limbs like barbed wire. The attic blended into a swirling void, confusion overwhelming her senses. "Mom!" Ethan's voice sliced through the darkness, sharp and desperate. She twisted to see her children, their faces illuminated by the faint glow from the trunk. They were like frightened animals caught in a trap, tethered by fear. Jessica's heart raced as she fought the suffocating pull of the shadows. There had to be a way to shield them from this nightmare. "Stay together," she cried, the words clawing at her throat. As she struggled against the encroaching darkness, a sudden clarity broke through. She had seen something in the light, a flash of memories, a glimpse of what had once been contained. With that curiosity blooming back inside her, she took a faltering step closer to the trunk. "Let them go!" Jessica screamed, facing the swirling wraiths. To her surprise, the shadows halted, hesitant, as if considering her challenge. They whispered back, 1,000 voices melting into one, "But we are drawn to the truth that lies within." Jessica's pulse quickened. The truth? What truth? Was it the answers that would save them or perhaps destroy them even further? A wave of dread washed over her, and she could feel the temperature drop. Armor-clad doubt suffocated her resolve. "Mom!" Lily's whimper reached her again. "We have to go." Jessica turned, feeling the weight of her decision heavy upon her. She looked at her children's pleading eyes, the innocence shining behind their fear. "I won't let them take you." With newfound fury, she reached toward the trunk, ripping the lid wide open. The moment she did, a blinding light surged from within, mingling with the inky darkness swirling around them. A chorus of terrified screams erupted from the shadows, their forms blurring and twisting as they recoiled from the light. The radiance revealed terrifying truths and haunting images. Jessica briefly glimpsed faces she recognized their faces. With a gasp, realization hit her like a punch to the gut. These spirits were not strangers, they were fragments of her family, lost long ago, screaming silently for release. "Help us!" A voice she recognized, a beloved grandmother, wailed, her image floating above her. "You need to remember." Jessica staggered back, emotion crashing over her like a tidal wave. Their past, hidden beneath layers of grief and denial, was fighting to break free. Yet the shadows were gathering again, spurred by darker instincts. They lunged for Jessica, hungry for fear, yearning for her despair. "Get away!" she roared, shielding her children with her body. The light blinked and pulsed, illuminating her resolve. She wasn't going to let this force consume them. Determined, Jessica held her ground, summoning every ounce of courage. "I won't let you take them." But the shadows were relentless, coiling around her like a vice, their whispers begging for her surrender. As they crept toward the light, Jessica felt it waning. Her energy started to drain, darkness closing in on the edges of her vision. "Mom!" Ethan's voice faltered, drawing her attention. "I'm here." She gasped, but as she looked, the shadows were tightening their grip, pulling Ethan and Lily away from her reach. The battle was spiraling out of control, she was losing them. Time was running out. She had to make a choice, face the horrors of the past to save them or watch everything she loved get consumed. "Show me," Jessica whispered, fighting through the desperation. "Show me the truth." The trunk glowed brighter, and with a heavy crack, the shadows shrieked in pain, momentarily retreating. Hope surged within her as clarity erupted. But was it enough to reclaim what had been lost? Suddenly, the attic doors began to close, encasing them all in horror just as echoing laughter taunted her from the shadows. What had they awakened? "Mom!" They shrieked in unison, and Jessica felt their fear surge through her. Crisis gripped her heart. Could she truly turn back time, reclaim the lost, and shield her family from the abyss? As the screams of her ancestors echoed around her, Jessica faced the darkness once more. It was now or never. Could she wrestle back control before everything faded to nothing? What would this battle reveal about the past she thought buried? The attic trembled as if it were alive, shivering at Jessica's desperate plea. The shadows continued to push against the light, their twisted bodies weaving and writhing like dark serpents, hungry for flesh and fear. Jessica pushed harder, her determination slamming into the shadows with all the force she could muster. "I want to let you take them," she roared again, voice breaking but fierce. The trunk shone like a lighthouse in a storm, a beacon against the dark that sought her. Images of her family flickered within, memories turned nightmarish. She could see the gathering storm of grief that had swallowed them whole, and the faces in the light were pleading, desperate. "Remember us." Her grandmother's voice begged, echoing louder amidst the chaos. "Mom!" Lily cried, tugging on her leg, her small hands shaking with terror. A tendril of shadow flicked out like a loose snake, wrapping around Lily's wrist, pulling her closer to the dark. Time froze. Jessica could feel her heart thundering in her chest. Every instinct screamed for action, but her legs felt like lead. "No!" she screamed, lunging forward with whatever strength she could find. She ripped the shadow away from Lily, but as she did, countless other tendrils surged back, wrapping around her children and yanking them across the creaking floorboards. Ethan! Lily! Their terrified faces smeared against the light, swallowed by the dark that clawed at them like a beast feeding on souls. In that moment, clarity struck again. The past she had hidden was roaring back to life. The loss, the guilt, the sadness, had she truly buried it, or had it festered in the silence? Every cruel memory that had held her captive was now manifesting into these shadows, wanting her to face the sorrow she had long ignored. With a shaky breath, Jessica shouted, "I remember." The shadows hesitated, a murmur rippling through them. She didn't know if she truly meant it, but as those words tumbled from her lips, a chink in the darkness cracked open. New light spilled into the attic, not just from the trunk, but from somewhere deep within her heart, a flicker of hope ignited by a long-lost love. "Get away from my kids." In that moment, Jessica reached into the light, her fingers brushing the familiar warmth of her family within the depths of the trunk. She grasped at ethereal tendrils of what once was, and a burst of energy surged from her. A pale light burst forth, illuminating the attic as though the sun had risen within. The shadows screamed in agony as they retreated, the echoes of their desperation rattling the walls. Jessica felt the grip around her children slacken, and her heart soared like a freed bird. They stumbled back into her arms, eyes wide and glistening with tears. "Mom!" Ethan's voice cracked, overwhelmed with relief and fear. But the victory was short-lived. The moment she embraced them, the light began to flicker, fighting against a tide of darkness that still loomed near. The shadows regrouped, swirling furiously, hungry for the vulnerability they sensed. "Stay close," Jessica urged, breaking off her embrace but keeping them near. As she turned to face the trunk again, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. "We will take what is ours, your fear will feed us." A creeping chill obscured the light's warmth, wrapping around Jessica's heart like icy fingers. Each whispered taunt struck deep, awakening doubts she thought she had buried, creating a storm of panic inside her. Show me how to save us," she invoked, desperation clawing at the edges of her voice. The cavernous laughter filled the attic, vibrating through every cracked floorboard, rattling her bones. Darkness closed in, but not all was lost. Maybe it was the truth that she had long avoided. Maybe that could break her free. The trunk pulsed, brightening for a moment before dimming again. She was teetering on the edge between two worlds, and she felt herself slipping. What awaited her on the other side? More terror or the salvation of truth? She needed to know. Would facing her past be the key to defeating the shadows, or would it plunge them deeper into despair? The attic spun as Jessica's thoughts raced. Shadows writhed and hissed, clawing at the edges of her sanity. Was it too late? Could the light truly triumph over this encroaching darkness? She felt a rising dread, clawing at her throat, making it hard to breathe. Mom, Lily whispered, her little voice trembling, eyes wide with fear. Jessica glanced down, brushing the hair from Lily's face, trying to project strength. But her heart was pounding like a drum, each beat echoing failure. Hold on tight, she urged, gripping Ethan's hand firmly as the shadows surged forward again, pulsing like a living thing, ready to consume them whole. Jessica had heard the hushed tales of the cursed family that once lived here. A tragedy that seeped into the wood, tethered to every corner of the house. Could it truly be connected to her own memories? Suddenly, she felt it an echo from within the trunk. It throbbed, vibrated, as if it were alive, mocking her with its pulse. "What do you want from me?" she yelled, her voice cracking. The shadows paused for a heartbeat, as if they were contemplating her challenge. Then, the trunk exhaled a whisper that filled the room with cold air, "Face what you flee, your guilt, your resistance." Jessica's knees nearly buckled, a wave of memories surged forward, sharp and jarring. Her father's last days, her mother's quiet grief, and the secrets buried within family photographs. Tears burned at her eyes, but she held them back. "No. You won't take them." She could not let the darkness feed on her pain. "Mom, I'm scared," Ethan moaned, clutching her tight. Lily squeezed her mother's leg, her small body trembling like a fragile leaf in a storm. "Mom, we believe in you." Lily's words pierced through the fog of despair. Taking a deep breath, Jessica reached for the trunk, hanging on to the light it radiated. "Yes, I remember. I've held your memories hostage for too long." The shadows recoiled, a whisper of uncertainty running through their mass. Flowers of light burst from the trunk, filling the attic with a warmth that fought the cold darkness, illuminating the corners long shrouded in shame. But the shadows swirled angrily, snapping toward her like the jaws of a ravenous beast. Jessica focused on the trunk, summoning the light, willing it to grow stronger. "This is your home, my family," her voice reverberated, mingling with the memories she had locked away. As she held the pain of her past in her thoughts, something incredible happened. The silhouettes of her family materialized briefly, flickers of ethereal light woven through the shadows, each face urging her on. They started moving toward her, a shining army against the darkness. "Join us," they beckoned in unison. The temperature plummeted, and the air crackled with tension. Jessica could feel the darkness retaliate, its icy fingers stretching and clawing, desperate to snatch her children. "Stay with me," Jessica shouted, feeling the icy dread surging once again. "We will find the truth together." But just then, a loud bang erupted from the attic door, shaking the walls, causing dust to rain down as a voice screamed from beyond the wooden barrier. "Jessica! Let me in!" She faltered, fear gripping her heart again. Who was it? Was it help or another shadow disguised as salvation? As the ominous laughter of the shadows filled her ears, she was left with an impossible choice to make. Would she open the door and face the fear of the unknown? Or would she stand against the darkness, trusting in her family's love and their past? The attic was spiraling into chaos, and time was running out. Jessica's heart raced, pounding like the relentless echoes of chaos threatening to consume the sanctuary of the attic. The shadows pulsed and writhed, dark tendrils clawing closer as the echoes of her loved ones urged her onward. She could feel the temperature drop as fear slithered around her, but the flickering light from the trunk pushed back against the encroaching darkness. "Jessica! Let me in!" The voice beyond the door called again, desperation thick in the air. It sounded familiar, like someone she once cherished, but dread swiftly stole her breath. "Stay with me," she commanded her children, clutching their small hands, her eyes wild with a mix of panic and fierce determination. She could almost feel them slipping, shadows wrapping around their tender forms like vultures around their prey. "Believe in us." The whispers grew louder, they swarmed her head, filling her mind with a chorus of fears, regrets, and lingering pain. "Face your grief, face your guilt," they hissed, a cacophony of voices urging her to relent. "Shut up," she screamed, battling the tempest within. Her resolve flared like a candle igniting, memories flooded back: her mother's soft laughter, her father's warm smile, family gatherings that felt like a lifetime ago. She had carried their whispers with her all these years, suffocated under the weight of loss. "Please, Mom." Ethan's scared voice broke through her turmoil. "What do we do? Trust me." It surged from her throat, emboldened by the light pulsating from the trunk. Taking a deep breath, she hurled herself forward, grasping the trunk's edge. "We'll fight together." Suddenly, as if in agreement, the golden light burst free, illuminating every corner of the attic like a sunrise breaking through the dark. The shadows hissed, shrieks of outrage surfacing as warmth broke their cold barrier. "Join us, Jessica," the shadows implored, their voices now a mix of familiar and eerie. "They will suffer if you do not let us in." The banging from the door grew frantic, rattling the attic as fear clawed at her resolve. "Everyone deserves to be remembered," she shouted, steeling her heart against the tug of sorrow. Inside the trunk, visions surged, her past unfolding in vivid clarity: the joy, the pain, the unspoken words left hanging in the air like unfinished stories. She could see her loved ones flickering, urging her on, their ethereal presence a comfort against despair. "I remember you," Jessica shouted into the storm. "I won't forget. But I won't let the darkness take my family." Shadows clawed at her heart, whispering doubts, promising safety if only she relinquished her truth. The weight of her grief pressed down, heavy with guilt. "You abandoned them," the voices taunted, their breath cold and hollow. "No. I never forgot," she retaliated, her voice cutting through the haunting echoes. "You may have taken them once, but I'll reclaim their lives with every breath I have." In that moment, the trunk erupted with blinding light. The shadows twisted in agony, recoiling from the brilliance that enveloped Jessica and her children. The air crackled with electricity as her surroundings warped like a scene from a nightmare, and just as she was about to be overcome by the tide of darkness, Jessica felt warmth surge from deep within her. "Family. Love. Truth," she shouted, the individual words vibrating through the air like a powerful incantation. The light pulsed and exploded in brilliant waves, each iridescent burst repelling the darkness, squeezing it into retreat. "Remember us." Her grandfather's voice rang clear amidst the chaos, and as his image flickered, Jessica felt rage transform into peace, grief into love. Every experience etched a balance within her, and as she gripped Ethan and Lily's hands tighter, they became a beacon against the torment raging around them. "Can you feel it? The love we carry?" Jessica demanded, and the light intensified, chasing away shivering shadows. The darkness screamed, revealing fleeting images of her loved ones' faces she had mourned, lost, but never truly forgotten. The attic door burst open, spilling moonlight like silver rain. Through that door stood Dave, no longer the benign neighbor but a swirling specter drawn by malevolence. But Jessica was ready. "It ends here. You will not take my children," she bellowed. The shadows, feeling the collective power of her family's memories, began to dissolve into swirling mists of despair. With her heart ignited by fierce love and unyielding spirit, Jessica snatched hold of the light, unleashing a wave that surged forth, flushing shadows into the void. Dave screamed, the darkness howl mingling with the silence of the ancestral spirits, her family wrapping around them like a protective embrace. "Join us," they whispered, holding hands, their silhouettes glowing with vibrant warmth. Jessica wept tears of joy, the shadows receding against the light, the noise dying down until all that remained was peace. The attic shimmered, their sanctuary shimmering with hope. As dawn broke on the horizon, light spilled into the cabin, illuminating every crack and crevice that had once echoed with sorrow. The spirits of her family lingered, at peace, memories woven into the fabric of sunlight, whispering, "Remember our love, carry us forward." Jessica hugged her children tighter, knowing they had faced darkness and emerged glowing. The scars would remain, but the shadows of despair had been defeated, and together, they could build a new legacy, untouched by fear. "Mom?" Lily's soft voice broke through. "Are they okay now?" "They're always with us. We'll carry them in our hearts now," Jessica whispered, her spirit mending with every syllable. They had fought to remember, and with that, they could rise anew. So, let them remember. Let them love. This was more than a victory, it was a rebirth under the warm embrace of sunlight and those who had always been, guiding them into the future. Subscribe immediately and become part of our storytelling family, so you don't miss the next exclusive adventure. Smash that like button now. Every one of your likes breathes life into these stories and keeps us creating. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories, your voices matter. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this epic conclusion too. Only true fans appreciate how your support can shape our channel's future.